might get a cat, actually, because we don't have a cat in this video. Okay, I now have a cat. Reluctant cat, but we have a cat nonetheless. Hello, how are we all? Good, I hope. Don't think she's going to stay, is she? You going to stay, Peps? Do you want to say hello? She's probably a bit camera shy. She's already had her photos for the day, haven't you? If I get you some treats, will you stay? I'm going to get her some treats. I'm pretty sure Boris is coming down the stairs. Hello! Hello! Who would like some treats? This is Pepper. Pepper would like some treats, wouldn't you? Here you go. Do you want these? Boris! Do you want some treats? Come on then! Come on then! You are a bit shy, aren't you? Here we go. Good boy! Up you come. Come on before Pepper steals them. Hey! Do you want out my hand then? Okay, here you go. So anyway, I digress. This is not a video about cats, as much as I'm sure you probably want one now. It's a video about cottages and thatched cottages, and what it's like to live in one. So I asked on my Instagram for you guys to give me some questions or some things you'd like me to talk about, and so I've got some here. Let me grab my phone. Righty-ho, let's go. So, gosh, we have quite a few. Okay. First one is, how does the cottage stay dry when it rains? Well, it's quite simple. We have a roof. Sarcasm aside, great question actually, because I suppose, yeah, how does it stay dry? So with the reeds that we've got on the roof, the water just runs straight off of them. When they're piled all up high like they are, they form insulation, they form waterproofing, and everything just runs straight off of them. So we don't have gutters or pipes or anything like that on this side of the cottage. A little bit on the back, purely because we have an extension which was done in the 70s, and that extension is got terracotta tiles, I think. So that needs a little bit of piping, but other than that there is none, and all of the water just drips off, and yeah, it's really quite straightforward and simple. If the thatch is new, it's very good. If the thatch is getting really old, it can leak. So a cottage next door to ours is being rethatched, and the rethatching that's going on there is purely because it started to leak, and the thatch is getting old basically and worn away, and that happens after, I would say, about 15 to 25 years on average from all of the thatches that we've looked at and all the thatchers that we've spoken to. I've only spoken to 2 thatchers, but that's, in the UK, that's quite a lot. They are quite hard to come by, and when you need to rethatch your roof, you have to book it in really far in advance. So I've already been speaking to a thatcher about getting the cottage rethatched, but it doesn't need thatching until, I don't know, I think he was saying like 4 years time, so we're all good for now. How much does it cost to live in a thatched cottage? Well, it's slightly more expensive in terms of contents insurance and house insurance if you are getting a mortgage. Some of the cottages next, like on the next row along from ours, there's 2 cottages there. I'm in a row of 3, and those 2 are rented out. So you can live in a thatched cottage and pay minimal if you're paying rent. And I would hazard a guess, based on what I've seen online and having a look before I started the video, you'd probably be paying about £800, £900, depending on whereabouts you were in the UK, more or less. Because we bought our cottage, it did cost us slightly more, as I say, because we had to make sure that we had home insurance and the house was all looked after and protected. The next question was, can you get a mortgage? I remember that one as well, because I remember asking my husband that when I really wanted to buy a thatch, and the answer is yes. The only thing that we can't do is use this fireplace, and the only reason we can't use the fireplace is purely because the chimney stack is about this sort of height. Now I think it needs to be 1.2 metres, which is quite high when you think about it, off the roof base. So there's less risk of fire. Now our neighbours either side both use their fires all the time, and the lady that lived here and passed away before we moved in, she used to use it all the time, so I don't know about the risks there. Do we get rats and spiders? Yes, we do. We actually had rats and spiders at the last cottage. If you don't know already, our last cottage was a beautiful Cotswold stone cottage in Oxfordshire. It was 2 bedrooms, it was very small, we had a shared garden out the front, which no one actually knows. I think this is the first time I'm sharing that. We had our part, and then our really lovely neighbour Anna had her part, and then her neighbour Louise had her part, and we all looked after them separately, and they all looked so different, but it was lovely. And yeah, we had the same problem there with rats. We actually had wasp nest as well. I think my neighbour here's got a little wasp nest. I saw them buzzing about, and I think I've seen hornets, but I digress. Yes, we do get rats, and we do have a rat problem at the moment. We've had Ratman in. I hate the idea of putting poison down or anything like that, but yes, it is something that happens when you have a thatched house, and they are around more when it gets colder because they want somewhere to hibernate or sleep or rest or stay warm. Spiders? I don't know. I think the only thing I've noticed more of is wood lice or pill bugs if you're watching from America. They freak me out, and I have to be honest, they are the only living thing, minus horseflies, that freak me out. Horseflies I'm just scared of. Wood lice, ooh, I'm like, ah! I've become slightly desensitized to them now we're living in a cottage, but yeah, we have quite a few wood lice and quite a few spiders, like tiny little spiders, and just a case of putting them out when you see them, to be honest. And one of the other things we have had, and it's nothing to do with the thatch, I think it's just because we're in a cottage, is beetles in the kitchen. And I noticed underneath, so the wall that's to my side here, on the side of where my tea is that I forgot I had. So the wall to my side here is an exterior wall, and then the extension has been put on at a later date in the 70s, like I mentioned before. And that is, I think, underneath the floor tiles in the kitchen is just like mud. I think it's just like earth. So I noticed a hole in like the edge of the wall, which John, my husband, now filled. Next question is, does the cottage stay warm with the thatch? I assume you mean, is it warmer or is it more insulated or whatever? So I'll answer that in the way of yes, it's very warm. It's a lovely cottage. It stays nice and cool in the summer. So it's summer right now and it's nice and cool, and the temperature is about 20 degrees and I'm in the living room. And I've had the windows and the doors open all day. The hottest it's been in here has been, I think, 24 degrees from memory, and then upstairs it's got up to about 26. In our last cottage it got 27, 28, which was not thatched, by the way. We had very thick walls, so throughout the day the heat would just slowly come in and it would stay nice and cool, and then suddenly by the evening it was like all the heat's in and it just sort of like boxed in and it was very hot. Here, however, I think because we've got a thatch roof as well, it breathes more, so that means that we get more airflow through the house, and generally speaking it's nice and warm, or it's nice and cool. We tend to just use like big thick blankets that I've got dotted around the cottage, electrical radiators, and we have heated cushion, and I have somewhere, I don't know where I've put it, but a heated blanket, and we wear jumpers. How much does it cost to replace a roof? So on a thatch, yes, you have to replace the roof every, like, I guess 10 to 25, 30 years, maybe. It, like as I said before, it really depends on your reed that you're using, on the thatcher and their experience and ability, and where your property's located. So if your property is in the middle of a field and it's very sparse and there's nothing around it, and it's just, I'm thinking of one in particular that you can see from the top of Corfe Castle, and it's, yeah, it's very exposed, and a property like that will get beaten by the weather quite a lot. So it'll get a lot of rain, it'll get a lot of wind and snow if we get snow, and then a lot of hot sun, so the thatch won't last as long. on our cottage, the front of the thatch will last longer than the back, and that's purely because at the back of the cottage it's more exposed to the elements. There aren't any trees to protect it. There are, but they're further away, so there's not like any immediate trees to protect it. It also is, I think, southeast facing or something at the back. I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, it gets really hot at the back, and when it rains you can really tell it's raining when you look out the back window. Whereas out the front we've got two beautiful big trees in the front garden that almost like protect the front of the thatch, and the angle of the property as well at the front means that it doesn't get as weather beaten. So it depends. In terms of cost of replacing, so we've been quoted to have ours done in about 4 years time. It was £12,000. That's not including scaffolding. I think including scaffolding it came in at about 15,000, which is not really that bad when you think about it. And if you think you need to redo the thatch every, maybe, let's just say for argument's sake, 25 years, you could quite easily in that time, well, I say quite easily depending on your financial circumstances and all of that, but for me and my husband, we could quite easily in that time save that amount of money up purely for the thatch, which is obviously a real privilege for us, but I don't see why, you know, that wouldn't be too difficult. So over 25 years, let's say you put £1,000 away, you'd have enough money to be 100% sure that in 25 years time you could afford to pay for that thatch, having £25,000 of thatch money. Does that make sense? Obviously it depends on the size of the property. So around the village there are some thatched walls which people have to get thatched every so often. Those aren't as expensive, but because they're so long, they're also a bit more exposed, it will cost a little bit more for them. And they've obviously got very big houses as well to have thatched walls. We do not have thatched walls. And it also depends on the slope of your thatch, so you can have quite sort of like I don't really know how to say it, like short slopes, or you can have very deep ones. So a cottage that we looked at around the corner that we didn't buy, not because of the thatch, it didn't have really any bathrooms, to be honest. It had 3 bathrooms but no bathrooms. That had a really steep slope on the thatch, so that would cost more money because it's obviously more thatch and it takes more time to redo. Next question. What is my favourite thing about living in a thatched cottage? Oh my goodness, I don't know. I've always wanted, so I have like a little bucket list of houses that I would love to live in. One of them was a Cotswold cottage, tick. One of them was a thatched cottage, tick. I've always thought a barn conversion might be quite cool, haven't done that. And I've always thought maybe like living in like a mini gatehouse, like, you know, like a castle gatehouse thing, that would be really cool. So I don't really know. I think cottage wise it's having a pretty house. So for me, I love having a pretty house and like having the facade and the front of the cottage looking really pretty all the time. It's it gives me a warm tingly feeling. So if we've gone out for the day or gone on holiday or I've gone for a walk, and then as I'm on the way home I always like to glance in and look over the gate at the cottage, and it's just like, oh, that's my house. I'm quite house proud, and yeah, because I'm quite house proud, I think having a pretty house is just, I like to, and our home feels really calm and relaxing, and there's lots of character here. I think my favourite thing about living in a thatched cottage is probably the like chocolate box history aspect of it. So this house that we're in now has had so many families living in it over the years, and it's just historical and lots has happened here. Even since we've moved in, you know, we've got married, we brought our baby here, she's learnt to crawl and walk. You know, we've had a bathroom done up, we've done up the cottage generally. So I think it's probably that like historical aspect of it and the oldie woldy prettiness and how it can look elegant and feel cosy and homely in all seasons, which I really like. what do I hate about living in a cottage? Hate is a strong word. I think what I dislike most is probably the fact that we've had rats in the roof. I don't like that for 1 second. Although saying that, when I've seen them in the back garden, like, I haven't seen them for ages, but I saw them in the back garden, which is how I know they're rats. I did think how cute it looked, and that was when I figured out where they were coming into the house and I could block the hole off, so that was quite helpful. But that's probably the one thing I don't like. And other than that, I think, yeah, it's really hard to answer a question like that, because I wouldn't be living in one if I hated them. Is this your forever home? And if not, will you be living in another thatched cottage? No, this is probably not our forever home. It's not big. If you will have seen my previous YouTube video, you'll know that it's 2-3 bedrooms. So I think once Tabitha's older and, you know, going up and down stairs and playing on her own, oh my god, we're going to want to move. And I think I sort of also want to move her to start school. Yeah, because I've got an idea of some of the schools I'd like her to go to. So no, I don't think this is our forever home, but I imagine we'll probably be here for quite a while. At least the next sort of 3 to 5 years. And will my next home be a thatch? I don't know. That's something I really love about house hunting and about the future, is not knowing what, you know, your next home might be. I was saying to John the other day how romantic and lovely it was to think that when we were both born, this cottage was just here waiting for us to come and love it and put our stamp on it and live in it with our daughter. And the same with our last cottage that had been there for hundreds of years, you know, 14th century. It's the oldest house I've ever lived in, and John. So it just excites me, and I like to think about it sometimes, that there's probably another house out there somewhere that one day we will live in as a family and maybe have a dog, or I don't know. Yeah, it's really exciting. Am I scared of fires? I think that's quite a common concern for people that are buying their house or living around a thatch or something like that. It's not unheard of, but then it's not unheard of a non-thatch house to burn down either, is it? And I mean, obviously I've always been concerned about something like that, regardless of where I've lived, whether it's been, you know, at my mum and dad's house, which is massive and not thatch, or our last cottage, which again was not thatch, or this cottage. I think it's just a case of being careful and mindful and keeping on top of getting the thatch redone. You're more at risk if the thatch is in bad condition or not being looked after properly and you're not keeping an eye on it, quite honestly. And just being mindful and careful in the house as well, and seeing what's going on around you. So if you see something like that's going on around you that you think, okay, that's not safe, speak up. And, you know, that's my mentality on these sorts of things. But on the whole, no, I'm not particularly. We have house insurance, and you know, it'd be no more expensive than if it was a different property. And I know that there are risks, but there are risks with any house you buy. You know, I've got friends that have bought new builds that have had the worst issues with sinkholes, with flooding, with, you know, subsidence, and this house has been here for hundreds of years. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And if it does, we've got insurance and we'll fix it. Oh, this is nice. I always feel like I've been taken on a refreshing countryside frolic when I see your videos. Thank you so much. That's from a lady called Saimi. Thank you. Hope I'm saying your name right. Ah, another one here. That's an interesting one. I didn't even think about anything like that, even when we were looking to buy. When you see the thatch, is it wood underneath the thatch or is it something else? Yeah, it's wood A-frame. So I remember when John like opened the roof, the what do you call it, like the attic hatch thing, and I looked up there and I was like, oh wow, the beams, you can see there's a beam in the mirror reflection here. We've got a few in this room and a few in the next room, and upstairs, and the beams in the roof are just stunning. It looks amazing. So underneath the roof, it's all underneath the roof, yeah, it is a roof. Underneath the straw, it's all wood, and it just looks incredible. Well, thank you so much for watching my video and subscribing to my YouTube channel. It's been so lovely chatting with you and having you along, and I think I'll probably do our next video on either gardening or cats. I haven't really decided, so if you've got a preference, let me know in the comments below, and do not forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you, bye!